Hello guys, welcome to the second video on this video series on web development, and in this video we'll be dealing with the world of backend development. So backend development is basically the hardest topic in web development field, and it is the most difficult part to learn, I will say. Backend development basically deals with the communication between the client and the server. So what how do we start in backend development? So first of all, you will need a server-side language, which basically communicates between the client and the server, which acts as a medium of communication. So there are various languages in backend, like Node.js, which is based off JavaScript. We have PHP, which is obviously the oldest backend language there is, and we have Python, which is relatively common nowadays, and we have Ruby on Rails, the magical Ruby on Rails. And first of all, I'll be telling you my recommendation on this server-side language. So if you are a functional developer and you have worked with Python earlier, I would say go with Python because it is much easier to just switch in one language than to learn a different language on your own. So for Python users, I would say definitely go with Python. And if you have worked a lot with JavaScript, I would say go for Node.js because Node.js is the hardest thing in web development right now. It is way faster than other languages in web development. So I would say, due to the performance thing and the ease of learning, as you have already worked with JavaScript, it would be much easier to learn Node.js than learning any other new language like Ruby on Rails or PHP. So I would say for JavaScript users, go with Node.js. For Python users, go with Python. And if you are willing to learn a new language like Ruby or PHP, I would say go with them. It's totally depends on you because all of these languages just vary in terms of performances, but they provide almost the same features. So my recommendation, either go with Python or Node.js. PHP is probably the most used language, so if you want to do something different, I would say go with Node.js. And then I would discuss what things you should learn in every language. So basically, as I am a Node.js developer, I will recommend using Node.js. So what to learn in Node.js? As you can see, I have marked three frameworks here which are of different color. You'll see Happy, Meteor, and Express. I would say go with the Express or Meteor. Meteor is a full stack development framework, so it will manage your front end as well as web development, back end. So it will be much easier for you to manage your content. Other than that, there is Darby, Sail.js, and Happy, which are equally great. On the other hand, if you are going with PHP, you can go with Symfony or Laravel. Laravel is awesome, I would say. I've not used Laravel, but as I have heard, Laravel is equally great. So I would say go with Laravel and try out some new things. In the world of Python, there are only two popular frameworks that most of the web developers use. Either you can go with Django, which is probably the most popular Python framework in web development, or there is a newer framework which is Flask, which is equally powerful, I would say. If not better than Django, it can equal the power of Django. So I would say go with Flask or Django, depends upon you. The last, Ruby on Rails. It is an independent world. Ruby on Rails is just magical. So if you go into Ruby on Rails worlds, I'll say you will be disconnected from the world of JavaScript, and so that is why I don't personally recommend Ruby on Rails, but it is very powerful. So it totally depends upon you. Then the second thing in the backend development world that you will need is a database query language. So basically what we are transmitting between client and server, that is data. So we're transmitting information or data between client and server, so obviously you will need to use a database to store all those data. And basically we have two or three types of databases. We have SQL databases, mainly MySQL is the most popular SQL database. So SQL basically has a structured I will say a structured database. It is a structured database. So information is stored in the form of tables, and rows and columns are made, and that is how a SQL database is arranged. On the other hand, if you use a no SQL database, you know, no tables or rows are used. Instead, we have alternative platform there. We use key value pairs or key string value pairs. Mainly, I will recommend using Mongo or Redis, because Mongo and Redis both use JSON, which is the most popular uh, representational format in web development area. So I would say go with Mongo or Redis if you're using a NoSQL database. On the other hand, we have relational databases, which are a completely different world. Either way, you will just need one or two databases, and there are various advantages of SQL databases over NoSQL databases and relational databases. So Postgres is probably the most popular relational database. So I will say, if you are going with relational databases, you can check out their advantages or disadvantages. But if you're going with relational databases, I would say Postgres is the way to go. So this third thing that I have here is differently colored, because this is just optional. This is not compulsory in any way, but to have a functional language under your kit is equally great. And I will say, if you are going for a functional language, go for Go or Lisp. Lisp is probably the best option you have in functional languages, because functional languages basically manage help us to manage the HTTP requests. So I would say go with Lisp because of its power, and it is easy to handle Lisp. Has a very easy syntax, and it will be a very easy thing to learn it. So I would say go with Go language or Lisp. Either way, you have Rust, you have Haskell, which is equally powerful as well, but the syntax will be difficult to learn, I would say. So this is what we have in our backend development world. In the next video, I'll be dealing with full stack development. So goodbye for them.